Oh my God, that scream when we started the show. Ah! GSL Code A with just tasteless. And only taste. Oh, hello. With only tasteless. Hi. We are back now with our final best of 5. We've had some very close games. We've had some very one-sided games. This one's going to be cool, though. We got Stork against Ragnarok. Ragnarok is, I'd say, one of the lesser-known players that's out there amongst all the very good StarCraft II players. But Stork is somebody who's got a little bit more of an interesting story. This guy was a Brood War god. He was number 4 in Brood War. He had, I think it's safe to say, the best builds that were in Brood War. But like Flash, like a lot of these other guys that came over into StarCraft II, he hasn't quite seen that level of success yet. Now, he's older, it's tougher, he also does some coaching, but I'm always curious to see how these guys kind of translate into the next game. Ragnarok, this guy's a great player. I casted him, I believe I casted him in Hong Kong. You wouldn't believe how many games I've casted, but if I remember right, this guy did fantastic in the Hong Kong esports tournament. He is a very good player, a little bit overshadowed, still though on a great team, and this is an opportunity to prove himself. And Ragnarok is somebody, despite all the great stuff I said about Stork earlier, he can definitely win this. You see him right now, probably going into a bit of a meditative state. You definitely want to have, you definitely want to have the right mental condition coming into this best of 5 with a lot of prep time here. And I think Ragnarok can do it, but man, if there's a guy who knows how to prepare and a guy with a lot of experience under his belt, it's Stork. And here he is now. I used to, so back in the day, I think most people now study VODs more than replays. And some pro gamers, feel free to tweet at me if you guys think I'm totally dead wrong. But a lot of people tend to study VODs now since VODs are just so out there, they're so accessible. But back in the old days, when Tasteless was a young nerdin, a nubbin, I used to manage to get leaked replays of Stork, and I mean, I would just sit there and rewatch every single little thing that he did. And I mean, his builds were absolutely genius. He was doing a lot of stuff that, I personally, and I know a lot of other Protoss players, just didn't quite think you could actually get away with, right? Like, he was very bright. And it's important to note that, when we talk about all these different players, like somebody else whose name you'll hear thrown around is like Slayer's Boxer from Brood War. Slayer's Boxer was one of these guys that really figured the game out right when it came out, sort of like Nesty figured out Wings of Liberty right when it came out. Stork's somebody that got good like 7 years after everybody was playing StarCraft 1. I believe he had some success a little bit before that, but there was a point in time where he got this godlike status. So he's somebody that can come in after everybody's, measured every aspect of this game, weighed every part of it, and succeed. And, StarCraft 2 now is still not as old as Brood War was back then, and he got good at it. So I look forward to seeing this guy develop as a player, if he develops as a player. And we're going to see that here now as we go into map 1 on Terraform. Ragnarok against Stork. This is the GSL Code S solo cast by Tasteless. In the upper left, in the red, he is
CJN2's Ragnarok.
in the bottom right, in the blue, he is
Samsung Galaxy Stork.
Oh, Exeter Stork. And we have a pylon over here, just outside, to make a forge. Out of curiosity, I wouldn't mind if you guys tweeted at me. Ragnarok, is that a good game? That's a game, right? I know it's a word. It was a word before it was a game, but I'm just curious if you guys know if that game was any good. And we have the forge coming down here, the pylon, probe rather, being sent to the upper left side of the map. Now Stork, Cannon Rush, it's kind of weird. Actually, let me just get to that post this, because I don't want to just start a story and then I trail off because he actually starts it. So I'll get to this in a second. We have the probe coming up now. It's really easy to make it look like you're going to do this and not do this. And we see players make pylons all the time, and then sometimes the Zerg freaks out, sends too many drones, and he cancels it or lets it live, whichever one he's calculated makes the Zerg lose more money. But also we've had it where the Zerg's like, oh, you're faking, and then doesn't send it and then loses to a Cannon Rush. Now in this case, no Cannon Rush is going to occur, and this is going to be more of a normal game. What I was going to talk about before that, okay, so he's going to try to generate the look of a Cannon Rush here. Let's see if he actually pulls workers. He's pulling one. This was really more of a threat, I'd say, especially, well, I'd say not so much this year, but the past 3 years before that, this was just a big problem for Zergs because every Cannon Rush is different and unique. Each Cannon Rush is a snowflake, as your kindergarten teacher would say about you. Wow, he gets that. But yeah, they're all different, so it's really hard to make, the small math, kind of map out about, all right, where can he fit the cannons here? How many minerals should he have now? Even when it's done, okay, how ahead am I? Am I ahead? How behind am I? It's tough. And, especially, I think most people haven't considered this when we talk about StarCraft II, but specifically to be Cannon Rushed in a tournament match is very stressful. There's always been a stigma about Cannon Rushes being, sort of an embarrassing way to lose. Sort of like if you lose to a quick pull. I think a lot of that is actually because in the very, very first Brood War tournament that was ever had, it was actually run by a Cannon Rush where a guy just made cannons at the corner of a main and then just pushed forward. And of course, then that completely polluted the whole ladder experience as everybody just building cannons in each other's bases. But several years later, 5 or 6 years after that, people started figuring out that you could actually do some pretty technical stuff and punish them and then just go back into a normal game. So it's almost always worth it to consider whether it's Cannon Rushing or faking a Cannon Rush, and that's why we're seeing this here from Stork. Cybernetic score is done. What is the tech going to be? We will be finding out soon. We have Ragnarok here on 3 bases. Just hugging the left. And it might just be a little bit of a slow period. Okay, here we go. Stargate is coming. And that's a well-placed Stargate, I'd say. It's going to be hard to see where exactly, if you can actually scout that out. This is one of the maps where you actually have a pretty big main, which obviously has tons of pros and cons, but one thing that is a pro with this is that it's much harder for the Zerg to actually scout with the Overlord where Stargate's going to be. Let's see if this Overlord actually gets close to getting over there. All right, we got about 77 HP. Second check here. Okay, yep, he sees it. Still, though, seeing the Stargate, that's only part of it. A Stargate, it's in the main. That's just business as usual, right? You don't know necessarily what they're going to do with that. And in this case, it's going to be the Oracle. That's the most typical response. Now, an Oracle at this distance, this is just, you got to think of this less of an attack and more of part of the build. The Oracle, in a lot of ways, it just forces Zerg to spend money defending an Oracle. And the Oracle is actually just a great tool. It's really important when you look at StarCraft to not get stuck in a mindset of how to view a unit, because a lot of times they can be used just for so many different things. Like an Oracle here, yes, it can go and kill drones, and it probably will get 2 or 3 here, maybe not. Then again, of course, Zerg just making the Spore Crawlers or losing the drones anyways. But, from there, you got a scouting unit, you can get rid of Lings. There's no watchtower here, but you obviously get rid of Lings if there is a watchtower, or just anywhere else. And, you can even use this to detect. We've seen some pretty cool all-ins. We saw that failed one by Parting in the Season 1 of GSL Code S, where he used that to try to do an all-in. He detects with that and then has this massive number of Stalkers. Unfortunately, he lost the Oracle, so that did not work. But the idea is still cool. Now, with this kind of Stargate build, what you do is you keep the Zerg on his toes, or her toes if it's a girl Zerg, and you make a bunch of gates and wall in at the Nexus and the 3rd base. And with Oracles, just an Oracle, it can be dangerous. If they made a bunch of Lings, they could just run up and kill this, but that didn't happen this game, so Stork gets away with it. But yeah, occasionally if you get a dozen Lings, and let's say Protoss, for instance, was afraid of you run into the mains, so they didn't have their army in the right spot, you can shut it down that way. That is assuming that the Oracle's not over that Nexus to defend, but as we all know, the way this build sort of works, you always send the Oracle out, and they're in cross spots. So the 2 gates are finishing up, or they finished up rather, over here at the Nexus, and Zerg can't really punish that. And he's going to continue to get some more gates here. And do we actually... Okay, never mind. Excuse me. So yeah, looks like Zerg might be taking a 4th base, and it's just going to keep massing up Hydras. Now, he could try to push this. He definitely could. It should be something, however, that Stork should be able to, know much before it happens. And I think seeing those 3 Hydras there and tagging them, I think was a smart move. Because even though the Oracle can defend, it's not going to be that handy defending against Hydras. It's going to die pretty fast. So at least seeing the movement, probably worth it. We got a good number of Stalkers, although, at this phase of the game with that many Hydras and Lings, I think Stork might have a hard time with his army. Again, guys, Stork's a great player, but he was one of these guys that sort of figured out the game last. Flash is like that too, by the way, in case you want some kind of comparison for another race. Flash was not like the guy where everybody's like, there's a guy named Flash and he's doing this thing, like Slayer's Boxer was with drops. Stork was a guy that really fine-tuned these builds to an insane amount. And I guess the question is, for a phase of the game like this, is this build fine-tuned enough against, a player like Ragnarok? Okay, so the force fields were very good there. He picked the right number. Notice even the Zealots being hold position, backing up. Die Hard Sentry is picked off. And he's got a ton of gates. A ton of gates. So he could have some good warp-ins now. Now, I'm not clear on if the main is actually exposed. He might try to run in there with Lings. He runs up here. Whoa, no force fields. And he just uses that Guardian Shield. Looks like there's still a decent number of Stalkers, and I think with the warp-ins, I think he should be okay. Still, though, Hydra's in the back doing a ton of damage. This is that funny moment where since there's no energy on the sentries, you're actually okay with him tanking. And now they're all gone. So, there was, in one sense, a small win in the sense that the sentry count was reset. But Hydras are not cheap. This is the slowest chase scene ever. And, yeah, let's see where the game goes from here. He's got a ton of gates up. The Robo-Bay was started late. And hold up a second here. Okay, he still has that Oracle. Had to check on the mini-map. So, I mean, he does have the option of trying to attack in here. Now, Ragnarok's follow-up is 17 mutas. Could we even have 20? I think absolutely it would be the case. Now, in case you're wondering why would that really matter with Stork having so many Stalkers, the distance they are on this map, you can't really get all the way across the map without all those mutas just destroying your main. And I mean, as fast as Stalkers are, mutas are just more mobile. Well, he's going to drive him out there. Of course, these are Stalkers that are not going to be used to apply pressure. And, wow, okay. I didn't expect Ragnarok to do this, but he can totally do this. He's going to try to dive in. Now, the danger here is Stork can actually blink in from the right side of the map into the main and just, like, get right under these mutas. Oh. Okay, I wonder if he's even... All right, yep, he'll regroup here. Might even actually attack this, but that would be unwise since there's more Stalkers down here now. Guardian Shield comes up. The Lings come around. Now, is this going to be enough? Nice blinking away, completely making a fool out of Ragnarok. Ragnarok has to back up. Muta's going to loop around now. And with the Robotech here, I mean, there was a period, I think it's sort of necessary for Ragnarok to get all those mutas, right? Like, he had to keep the pressure on, and really going mass mutas is just, it's really difficult to deal with. So, this was a smart move, but now, I mean, Stork's in a very good position. He's going to have Observers out. He can start, I mean, if he wants to, he doesn't have to, but he can get things like Colossus and Immortals. Might not be necessary as long as they're sticking with mutas. And supplies are actually even. It's 146 to 149. Oh, the Oracle goes, but not a big deal now that we have detection out here. And he's actually sticking with Ling Muta. And going to go ahead and get an Infestation Pit. This build is specifically good because of the way this map is shaped. It's just, mutas have so much more mobility. Yes, Stalkers can blink, but, I mean, just the sheer amount of movement to... room, to move around here is huge. So the Muta's now going to go around back into the main. We see Stalkers headed northbound here. And usually a response that we would have seen earlier would have been to immediately get a second Stargate and start making Phoenixes, which didn't happen. I haven't touched on that yet here. But for some reason, Stork didn't do that, and I'm a little bit confused why. So a lot of times what we see is, okay, so like, you see what, like that 11, 15 mutas, and then you think, uh-oh. What we need to do is we need to get a second Stargate, and you don't just rally Phoenixes with your army, you hide them. A lot of times you want to make like second Stargate like for instance at like your second or your third Nexus where there's like a cannon. I guess not at this one since there's no cannon here, but you see the idea, right? So, and then you want to bank that so then the Phoenixes come out and just surprise the Zerg. They hit him really hard, but we didn't see that. And so these mutas are just doing a ton of damage, and with a counterattack here from Stork, I'm not totally clear. Maybe it doesn't matter. I was being critical about that, but as I look at this, I guess there might not be enough. The mutas have done a ton of damage. They took out the main Nexus, but sometimes the guy with the bigger army is just going to win the fight. The question is, how does Ragnarok continue to expand across the map? When will he bring these mutas back? If he brings these mutas back and tries to deal with it. Sort of a weird spot, especially considering the distance the mutas are from the main and the fact that the Spire, right up there at the top, it can be a problem. But we have what is basically right now one Nexus Protoss with a big army. But not sure if there's actually enough energy there for the Guardian Shield, but that would be pretty handy. Yeah, there it is, which is actually going to make a pretty big difference. It's now picked off. Problem is, Blink is just so strong, and these mutas are basically all the Zerg has. Now, don't keep in mind, the Zealots are still doing damage here. He can keep blinking the mutas. The Phoenix even comes in here. More Stalkers coming here. Oh, sick. Oh, Stork. Why so handsome? This is actually great. That was a tough, I got to say, that was actually one of the harder things to cast because I wasn't entirely sure if that was going to work right. Like, in theory, it would seem like, especially in those spots, all Zerg has to do is make, a bunch of spines, and Zerg can try to take out the last Nexus and win in the long run. But, I mean, he had a lot of Stalkers. Good calculating there by Stork. We're going to go now into game number 2. Definitely a happy moment for Stork. The Code S, these guys are fighting to get in. It's actually the last Code S of the year. So, I mean, a lot of pressure for these guys. We don't start Code S right up, at the start of the next year, so there's some downtime, man. Obviously you want to win it all, but you at least want to, be identified as a Code S player before the start of 2016 for these two guys. Okay, next map is going to be Bony Research Station, and it looks like Stork's actually requesting this. This starts up Ragnarok. They're saying good job last game, and we're going to get this. Looks like we're going to get this going. So, how will Ragnarok do? I thought he did a decent job. I was actually a bit weirded out when Stork didn't start pumping up a bunch of Phoenixes, but it seemed like he had actually a very good understanding of what he could do. Who knows, though? Maybe he was like, I'm not sure if this attack's going to work. It was a tough one. We're going to go into game number 2 now. It's loading up. I'm Tasteless, your only host today. The map, Bony Research Station, is the battleground. This will take place on Ragnarok against Stork in our final best of 5 here at GOMTV.
Welcome to a GSL.
In the top center in the red,
CJN2's Ragnarok.
Ragnarok. And in the bottom center in the blue, he is
Samsung Galaxy Stork.
Uh-oh. He's going for the gold. Is he? Think so. So, obviously Zerg, I mean, there are some exceptions because Protoss can fast expand, but pretty much Zerg's always ahead in expansions. And gold-based takes have been pretty popular, and I guess, no, he's actually not, it looks like. He's just going to go ahead and scout with the drone. Thought the drone timing was a little bit weird, but we've seen a lot of people go for gold-based builds, and they can be pretty strong. Protoss is a little bit flimsy. Not as flimsy as Terran is at early times of the game, but they got to get the right balance of units before they can move out. Okay, I'm sorry. He is going to go for the gold. Just not the one I thought. All right. He's going to go for this gold base. The other drone was actually just a scout to make sure nothing weird happened. So this is Zerg taking full advantage of the race, the map, and what he's scouted here for Stork. He's come in there and he's seen, well, looks like Stork is getting the gateway here, doing a very safe build. Gateway build, by the way, in case you guys are confused, still not really a threat at all to a Zerg expanding, just due to the distance of the map and the way this whole game works. So Stork's just going to go ahead and get a Nexus. Now, if two guys are expanding, it's time for math time, guys. I know math is hard, and you're not supposed to do math on TV, unscripted, but we don't need to really play with any numbers to point out if two people expand at a base and the gold base always gives you more minerals, well, who's going to be ahead? It's going to be the guy with the gold base. And with Protoss not really able to punish this, I don't know, there's been some debate with people in StarCraft II saying, is this fair? Oh, and I love this. Hold on. So he's taking the extractor. Now, this is evil. Gas builds, or gas steals, I should say, were stronger actually in StarCraft 1 because you start out with one gas, so you just couldn't get gas if it was taken. It was a really good way to abuse Terrans in Brood War. But even doing this now, it is the slightest limitation on options of Stork. And as much as we talk about StarCraft being a game of micro and macro and strategies, it is also just deducing options. This is why some of you guys might not have known this, but some of the best poker players currently were former StarCraft players because they're usually very good at deducing, you know, what is in the guy's hand. And it, you know, it seems with the poker hand, that's sort of like what StarCraft is. What are his builds? What are his possible builds? You know, you see a Stargate, you say, well, you know, it could be an Oracle, it could be a Phoenix. I guess it could be a Void Ray, but I'm Zerg. It's probably not a Void Ray, so you sort of deduce that, and you can make, you know, estimations with stuff like that. But taking that gas does just slightly limit the rate and movement that Stork has as far as teching can go. And so I really like what Ragnarok's doing there. The Overlord's going to come peek in here and see it's business as usual. Warp Gate started up. How does Stork handle this? This I'm quite curious to see because this guy has historically had such good builds. He's a great StarCraft II player, just not as prominent, you know, as he once was. But what does he do? Oh, and I like this. Even getting the Ling in here. This is smart. You use that Overlord, right? He's going to get uncomfortable. He's saying, oh, I got to get rid of this stupid Overlord because he's limited my options. Now I need to make sure he doesn't see it. Oh, man, Ragnarok is everywhere. Look at this. And then, you know, right when that stalker goes back, he darts into the main. So this might be the best amongst bad options. Bad just being I don't think it's going to give him a lead. Stork expands again because Ragnarok may skip over the fact that he hasn't looked, well, maybe not. He's going to send the Ling down here. I was going to say he may think that he's just delaying the tech when in fact he's going to make a Nexus right out here at the front and a Forge. But can this be punished? Or you know, another question I guess to ask too is that does he need to punish it? Can he just make drones, right? He's got a gold base. And so there is no real tech here. Problem is, it's like he's opting to try to race Ragnarok in what I guess, to be blunt, is like a race I don't think you can win. Now, I mean, with good control, miracles can happen, but honestly, if I'm Ragnarok, you know what I do, guys? I take the 4th base at the upper right. I don't even think I need to take a timing attack here. I take the 4th base at the right. I'm basically like a 5-base Zerg against a 3-base Protoss. And that Nexus is, I mean, it's still pretty fresh. Zerg can be cranking out drones at this phase of the game. Already 58 drones. Well, let's see where he goes. He's getting a lot of gases. Looks like he is going to get that hydrogen. He is going to get Ling speed. Maybe we'll see something similar to the last game. With the gold base on 3 bases, you can get a lot of hydras, like a lot. And the 3rd base for Protoss is actually pretty open on this map. Well, it's normally, okay, well, whatever, you get what I'm saying. The base that's farthest out for Protoss is far. So, I mean, you can get a, even though, excuse me, I'm like rambling. This is what happens when you solo cast. I feel like my brain's turning into oatmeal. So he actually can get a good surround with the Hydras there and actually possibly punish him with that. Let's see. 7 Hydras are making now. We got Blink on the way here, and we have a Stargate starting. Now, Ragnarok has played, I think, pretty much the perfect game until now. He's scouted everything. He's done it efficiently. It looks like he's even going to keep this Overseer alive here. The question is, did he take the game into the right place? I think Stork, he had sort of a bad start here. Not much he could do about this, I think. But this is, I mean, this is the burden, right? You pick Protoss, you got to figure out how to handle it. He's going to try to power up with gateways, and it looks like he might try to go for a favorable exchange. He's getting a Blink now. That's almost done. There's that 4th base. Ragnarok actually managed to get pretty much everything that you could tech to. And what's nice about this is that he has options. If the game goes in one direction, let's say he loses a fight, but he sees that the unit comp is a little bit wonky for Protoss, he could make the right unit comp to counter that. And a lot of ZvP really comes down to swapping unit compositions and sort of throwing Protoss off, because Protoss is really, as much as Protoss, well, people kind of whine about, oh, Protoss has this like kind of death ball thing. You have to really, fine-tune that death ball to actually handle what your opponent's throwing at you. And if you just see, oh, you know what, he doesn't have enough stock, let's say stalkers, whatever I get used, he just a little bit low on sentries, I can actually get just a ton of lings and probably do a surround. It's much easier for Zerg to actually remake an army at the snap of a finger with a bunch of bank larvae exactly the way it's supposed to be than it is for Protoss to go through maybe 3 or 4 rounds at the gateway. So, something to keep in mind here. I think creep spread from Ragnarok, I guess, if I could be critical though, I guess it could have been a little bit better, but it's not anything I should really nitpick about. Well, Zerg's maxed out, not surprisingly, with 77 workers. We don't always see them go up that high in workers, but I think why not in this case? I mean, he can remake his army so many times over. Almost surprised to see Ragnarok attack in that angle. As you can see, force fields are going to work out pretty nicely here, but I guess he's not really worried about having the perfect engagement. He's very interested in sort of winning in a kind of Zerg single-player kind of way of like, oh, there's just too many of them. The Hiders actually gun down these Zealots. Stalkers are going to go back up, and here's the problem. I mean, Zerg just got a gold base before the other player could. I would say that if there's a player who can get out of this, it's going to be Stork, but he's going to be in a deficit for like maybe 4 minutes, 5 minutes. He needs to max out. And the Spire is going to be the response. So with Zerg maxed out, or I guess nearly maxed out, if he loses this army, there's always the option that he just comes back and makes like 15 mutas, right? And because of the way this game's gone, you can see that the main and the bottom right base are pretty low on cannons or don't have cannons. And sometimes when things heat up like this, that can lead to the win there in of itself. Oh, this Zealot not quite fat enough. And you can even see a little bit of scouting for this now here. He's saying, okay, now there might be 1 or 2 cannons made here, but for the sheer number of mutas that may come into play here, that's huge. Now, Stork's going for the Dark Shrine, which, I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, we're at that phase of the game. Zerg's actually, I mean, with a gold base, it's almost like he's going to be on 6 bases because he's still mining from that gold. Although, let's keep in mind, guys, that will eventually mine out. He did get that pretty early. So, I guess the DT Shrine might be good. The problem is that with the Zerg having the backdoor base, it's not anywhere near as hard to expand. I think the gold base will probably just be covered because it's a gold base. And the other side of the map, that's sort of where Ragnarok is actually attacking into, right? Excuse me. So, I mean, yeah, let's see what happens. This is sort of that phase of the game where it just comes down to how they cast the spells now, right? So, he's moving out here, and it looks like Stork is a little bit apprehensive about actually fighting this army. The unit comp for Stork is good. And he, fortunately, is just going to have Psystorm in time. I don't know if Ragnarok would have known that Psystorm wasn't there, but that was... Oh, feedback, feedback, feedback! 2 feedbacks. And that's pretty good, considering that he wanted to get a nice fungal there. He's going to come down here now. Lings, Ultras, and Hydras just continue to barrel forward here. You should get a good storm on those Hydras. There we go right now. Blinding Clouds come down here, sort of inconsequential. Needs to make sure that Immortal is targeting the Ultras, and it looks like he shift-clipped that pretty effectively. A Hallucinated Archon not doing or meaning anything in this game. And now the game plan here is actually not even to make Mass Muta, for instance. There's no need. Look at this. He just makes Lings and Ultras. And I don't know if there's much that Stork could really do about it. Now, he brought those Queens down here. They weren't able to do as much. The transfuse is sort of off. I'm sure he has plenty of Queens back at home. Nope, no, maybe not. Sort of a weird way to play it, but I think Ragnarok can still close this out. Let's see. With all these Ultras and Lings hatching here, and remember, the lack of sentries, you know, this whole matchup for Zerg is sort of just rotating your unit composition to what is not favorable for Stork. Like I said, they got a ton of larvae. You just make their whole army at once. Or Stark, you know, it's like building blocks, right? They have like phases. Okay, I got, you know, this next 9 units out. I'll chrono my gates because I probably am not using chrono for anything else, and then I'll do that again. And it's pretty punishable. We also saw a greater Spire here, and I didn't think he was going to do this, but I guess, yeah, I mean, he can do this too. Oh, hold up here. DTs are on the loose. I suppose he can go for Broodlord tech here as well. I didn't think that's what's going to happen. Stork may actually manage to kind of maneuver back into this game with his harass. Stork is getting a 4th base and keeping it since the Warp Prism has caused enough of a nuisance. The gold base is going to be my net. All right, hold up. Hold the phone. Can Stork actually come back from this? I think he might, guys. I think if Stork is really smart and he actually kind of moves around the Broodlord army and sort of doesn't engage it, since Broodlords are slow, and the gold base is mined out, oh, this would be so cool. But, I mean, Ragnarok winning, totally not out of the question here. All right, so he's getting DTs. This is 11 kills. That makes this DT a serial killer, by all definition. And Stork's 4th base is up. Okay, now you got the 2nd Robo Bay. Not... I mean, I guess it doesn't hurt since there are Ultras out here, and you're kind of at that phase where Protoss needs to try to mimic what Zerg can do, which is get everything they need at once. 2nd Robo Bay can help with that. Stalkers are coming, rather Broodlords are coming down. So, is he going to engage? I did not think he was going to engage here, but it might actually work. He's right underneath those, but the Blinding Clouds are pretty good. And this is some pretty big blows here. He needs to use those Ultras to target down, sorry guys, Immortals to target down those Ultras. But I think that actually that engagement went just right. I thought perhaps Stork might be able to go around. Well, hold on. He's still doing some damage. Ultra count's lower. What he needs to do is bank up a blink. The problem is Hydras are even in front of that. They do a lot of damage. And now he's sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place. So we'll see though. Can he just get right under there? Shields level 1 finishing, not the most impactful stuff we could see here. Definitely the right idea from Ragnarok to keep making Lings. DTs are being spread out here. It is Stork with a better worker count right now. Or no, excuse me, that's evened out now since that expansion died. And Ragnarok sort of chewed through this base. Now, if Zerg is to screw up an attack like this and lose the Broodlords, it can be really bad. I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, the sheer amount of damage underneath these Broodlords is terrifying. And Ragnarok is just continuing to push forward here. Now, we shouldn't completely discount the damage that has been done here back in the main, but I think the real story is the fact that, you know, the fresher expansions with all the minerals at them are not available to Stork, and we really don't see any way that this army can be stopped. So I think Stork is going to tap out in a second here. And I guess not. I mean, he's on 2 bases now, but I mean, there's just not much else to say, guys. This game is basically over. Stork tried. I think it's a game that came down to builds, and also the fact that Stork did opt to engage that army. Problem is when Broodlords, or Broodlings rather, start to come out, you know, Immortals and Zealots are so slow that you're going to take a lot of damage anyways, right? Also, Lings can come in there too and get around, and it's not even that the Lings do damage, it's they stop your army from moving, and then the Broodlords just unload. But I mean, Stork is getting an A for effort here. He sent DTs over here. He's continuing to try to pick off drones, and he's going to try a counterattack. I would be more than happy to be wrong about him tapping out and having no chance here. He's going to move forward. Now remember, the gold base has been mined out, so if he actually were to do this, that would be just incredible. Zerg, again, like I was saying earlier, when they lose the Broodlords, it's pretty bad. I mean, he did substantial damage, but when you lose the Broodlords, you know, Protoss can move around a little bit more, and we're seeing that. Is that movement going to be enough to say you can stamp out an expansion? Well, that depends. He had the right idea. He sent those DTs in the main, and he tried to poke up there, but you could see he got a little bit unsure. So he's going to try again here with the DTs. And, yeah, he wants to back out of here. A Ninja Infestor throw. Still one more coming up here. And, you know, even if the DTs can be detected, you just have to kill a few drones. I mean, these things die so fast. Game's not going to alert you when they're dying in one hit like this. So we have the Templars coming up. He's just starting to try to, well, he's trying to get that balanced army in here. Zerg, so as I was saying, this sort of unit comp rotation that we see Zerg cycle through. He went for the Broodlord thing. Now what is the response? Lots of Ultras, some Hydras, and a lot of Lings. And what he's going to do here, he's probably going to attack in again. He's nearly maxed out. I guess he doesn't have to, but let's just assume whatever the attack happens, he'll then reevaluate the situation and decide, how do I make my army look to win the next fight? It's always been like this in StarCraft, guys. It's always the Zerg sort of doing a rotation. It's very different from ZvT, for instance, where they both sort of know what they're making all the time, but it's really about, you know, how do you micro it, and how many places can you, harass or with medevacs or throw Lings at or whatever, hit with Banelings. So this is sort of a slow, technical win here from Ragnarok. Although, I mean, Stork is still in the game. Ragnarok going for, looks like, the closing move here of yet another expansion. It's probably the last feasible expansion he can take on the map. But he's got plenty of minerals. He can probably stay in this game for a while. But this is the last sort of expansion on his side of the map, if you will. Sort of that sort of shared expansion there in the center left. But I don't think I've casted a game where that's gotten taken. Anyways, I think it's going to be Act 2 here. Broodlords, Ultras, Infestors. Stork is getting the fourth base up. I don't think he'll be able to hold it. Maybe with Templars getting some good feedbacks. I don't know. So the Observer's been gunned down. Oh, there's like one Muta. It's like the outcast Muta. He's been exiled to the left hand of the map. I think this is Stork. This is sort of all he can do right now, right? Just send a few DTs out there. Templars are coming out here. Now you might want to try to feed back the Vipers. Oh, that guy's got balls. All right. The attack's going to continue moving down. Okay, so the third base is almost mined out, so this is really it. This is going to be Stork's Alamo here. He's got to try to do something. He's got some there are okay storms there on the Broodlords. Oh, you know what? That's the angle you needed. If there was an angle you could do it at, but Blinding Cloud, guys, it's pretty good. Doesn't matter. Ultras, note how they've been pulled back. He doesn't want to even engage because he sees those Immortals. He just needs to try to get the Stalker number lower. Storms are coming down here. There's a slimmest chance, I think. It's going to be really hard. It may just come down to the fact that there's too many Hydras, though. Just dealing this much damage is sort of like such a ragtag Protoss army, it's just not going to be enough. It's got like one of each unit here. And I think that's where we're going to see GG, and we should be going on. Well, let's see. I mean, we should be going on into Game 3 here. I don't know. Stork is... Okay, there we go. GG. Nicely done there by Ragnarok. But can he do it on a map where he can't use a sneaky build like that, taking a gold base? I mean, that's the real question. We will see soon. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining. yours truly here today for this GSL Code A. This is my first time solo casting. Like 5 or 6 years. That's how I started my career out in Korea, offering to do solo casts. Then Artie McTosis descended from the clouds and became my co-host. But he, you know, he's got a family, which is bad for esports, and he's visiting them, so I'm filling. Everybody else has got a cast tonight. There are not just plenty of StarCraft matches, but other esports matches as well going on in Korea. So it's up to Tasteless to save esports. Now, Stork, I don't think is going to be that beaten up really by that game. Ragnarok had a good shot. I like this image, by the way. Deer coming in here and talking to Stork. Stork, you know, the Brood War legend, mentoring Deer, but Deer coming in here and probably having some you know, fine-tuned ideas for Stork to try to, you know, execute here in this game. And we're going to be starting this next game. It's going to be on Coda. What does Ragnarok have in store for us? Ragnarok, it's a big moment for him, and it's a worthy opponent to go on. It's almost like Stork's story is just one of redemption, right? He's just trying to come back and be a successful StarCraft II player. I don't know personally how deeply motivated he is to do that, or if he just loves being a pro gamer and he gets to coach now. Not sure, but I mean, you never know, man. Obviously, everybody does want to win, but something like GSL, we got winners and losers, man. Coda is now loading up. Ragnarok against Stork in our third game. Who is going to take the lead? It's tough to say, man. Anyways, I am Tasteless here at the GSL Code A. Let game number 3 load up as we finish up our final best of 5 here tonight. In the upper left, in the red, he is
CJN2's Ragnarok.
in the bottom right, in the blue,
Samsung Galaxy Stork.
Could be a cannon rush. Could just be a normal game. Well, this has been a nice day so far, guys. Nice evening. Solo casting for you. I hope you're enjoying it. And, yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool to see, you know, Stork and Ragnarok here. Kind of not a match I would have imagined before starting Code A. And we have the Forge coming down now. Stork never cannon rushed that much in the day. The old days, the current days, he just didn't do it as much. Which is funny because there were plenty of players, I mean, who did it to an insane degree, but it just seemed to not be his style. I don't know if that's because, you know, theory-wise, he thought it just wasn't viable in the long term. I mean, especially with Protoss, there's been a lot of major kind of discussions going on about what Protoss can and can't do, and it seems to always end up with, yeah, apparently Protoss can try to do that, they can get away with that. For the longest time, people thought cannon rushing, whether it was just like, you know, total one-base cheese or fast expand wasn't viable. It turns out it is. Then people thought fast expanding was a form of cheese because it looked ridiculous. Zerger, of course, only supposed to use fast expand. No, you can do that too. Ton of different techs here. Now there's 3 drones here. If this is SOS, I'd be worried right now, but it's Stork, so I think Ragnarok's going to be okay. The question is, will he place it? He's still forcing the Zerg to lose minerals. You lose about 1 mineral a second when a drone's not mining. So, I mean, it's still tough. I forget which game it was I was casting where SOS made, like, he, like, waited until, like, right before the pylon died and made 4 cannons and another pylon. And I'm like, oh, my God. Okay. But we're not going to have that here. You can just tell that by the minerals that are not remaining here for Stork in the upper right. Nexus being taken. You can see even Ragnarok's like, hey, you're not going to cannon rush me. I'm not going to waste my time getting this pylon. We got 2 gases being taken. Extractors being taken as well. And this is the part where you need a co-host because there's not a ton happening here. They can't attack each other. They just have to tech up. So we're going to see the Queens coming out here, an inevitable third base, unless Zerg decides, like, whoa, I want to end this right away. Cybernetic score comes, and then we'll see what kind of tech exactly Stork has in store for us. I think he shouldn't be too flustered by game number 2. That was a game where there was really nothing Stork could have done to stop the gold base from being taken, and Ragnarok did a pretty 10 out of 10 job there of playing through the rest of the game. So, yeah, we'll see. Probe comes around. And this is Slowcraft right now. They're macroing up, they're teching. We have the Stargate coming. Zergling speed is also started. Now, one thing we can note here, Stork did actually get that probe hidden away on the map. There's a lot of utility with having that probe out there. You know, I mean, he can make a pylon. Oh, all right, he can make a pylon like I was about to say right over here. Warping some zealots. I'm actually even surprised he's sending the zealot out here. Since the probe's gone undetected, you might have wanted to just make all the zealots there at once, right? Because if he sees a zealot coming up here now anyways, you're just going to have Lings ready. Unless, I'm sorry, hold on, let me look at the mini-map here. Maybe he didn't see that. I didn't personally catch it. Oh, cannon rushes. This is even cuter. All right, yeah, this is actually better. Forget what I was talking about with making the zealots. I like this even more. He gets the cannons. Ooh, and he's going to get an oracle. He's going to send it over there into the main. And this is where Ragnarok's like, oh my god. Sad face. And it's going to be 4 cannons. You actually have to be pretty careful, even though this looks great when you're going to kill the expansion. I mean, you're making cannons over here that are not really going to be used later. And Zerg can kill that pretty quickly later on. So sometimes when you go overkill on this, you are losing money. I mean, it's not like it's a bad move here from Stork, but just something to keep in mind. Ooh, that's a dirty cannon. These cannons need to be cleaned. Man. That makes me curious to see that, like, the animation that we haven't seen yet, the Nexus covered in cream. Have we ever had that before? I don't know. Well, he's still got that probe out there, too. He actually got this expansion shot down just fine. Really, though, I do want to highlight that. You have to be careful when you do a build like this. Like, when you do a cannon rush later on, it could be tricky because of the multitude of cannons you have to make, and you don't really get to cancel out any of them later on. Sometimes Zerg just stays ahead anyways. I mean, Zerg still got 3 bases, right? 2 oracles. I like this. Going for the Lings. He could try to do some kind of follow-up attack with this on the 2 bases. He's getting 3 more gateways. Cannon has been cleaned now. And we got a lot of gates, so this is going to be a 2-base timing with Void Rays. And I assume the technicalities of this is Stork believes that because that extra hatchery was made and because he wasn't, Ragnarok wasn't able to utilize the extra mining from that, if he times this out just right, he can just smash this with this big attack coming up here. Plus, he can use the oracles to detect without having to use any robo units. And he's going to get his Twilight Council. I believe this is going to be a timing attack. I might be wrong. I don't... Taking a bet here, guys. I believe he should be doing a timing attack with this. Void Ray is sort of weird. I mean, I guess he gets the Overlord with that, but I mean, it's not bad, but it's not the greatest unit to follow up with a big attack. He sees that 3rd base where it is, and I do like how he's utilizing this pylon over here to try to continue to do a little bit of harass. Idea was good, even if the execution of it was not. Whoa! I thought for a split second those gateways were unpowered, guys. I'm sorry. So the blink has started. He's moving out. Is he just going to take a 3rd base? Yeah, he is. My apologies, guys. I thought he might try to do some kind of 2-base timing. I guess he didn't really have the meat and bones. It seemed to make sense in my head, right? He's got the pylon up there. He's got the cannons. You can't really contest that. You know how annoying it is if Protoss get their additional expansion, or not, sorry, the proxy pylon shut down. Didn't look like that was going to happen. I thought maybe that would be the good move. Stork says no. He says otherwise. He's going to tech up. He's getting +2 attack, getting more stalkers, getting the Nexus. This pylon will go down. And let's see if this is a good choice. Because, I mean, when you look back at that counter rush, the big question is Stork truly ahead? I would assume a drone's going to be headed up here to the top center. Zerg will try to expand again. We see the supplies here not... I mean, they're not bad for Protoss. It's okay for Zerg to be ahead now, but it's not like he's in a huge lead or something like that. We have the Oracle sort of annoyingly stuck over here in the upper left. You have to go over mutas or corruptors to actually get rid of that. So he can basically stay there for the rest of the game. The link is being upgraded and almost done. And we're going to go into a macro game here. All right. I think Zerg should still get a pretty easy 4th base. I guess on this map, it's actually the 5th that gets a little bit tricky. Stork might want to just bring this into a late game. He is pushing out now. There's no reason not to with Blink. Zerg's going to try to get into a defensive position. You know, with Blink here and the fact that this map is just a bunch of like access ramps when you boil it down, if he picks his fights right, he might actually have a pretty favorable exchange. Not totally sure about Stork actually attacking here. It seems like most of his units are running around in the back. All that concave, convex stuff, but maybe I'm wrong here. He's kind of making it work. Will there be enough follow-up here with the roaches popping out to perhaps handle this? Limited number of force fields here remaining. He seems to have actually gotten in here and done some damage. Is this going to work? It's all going to come down to the next round. There is another stalker round warping in. An impressive play here by Stork. Actually just manages to get in here with a nice timing. Using that Oracle there to detect to make sure, you know, roaches, if they were to burrow or anything like that, isn't going to work. And nicely done. You know, part of me, when I looked at that attack, I thought, I don't know if he can actually get up there, right? But I think he was just confident, you know, in the way he was approaching it. He said, no, I've got the upgrades, I have Blink. And just enough force fields. Not the normal game that you see here, really. And a PvZ with the engage, right? Anytime you look at a battle normally, they're saying, oh, I don't know, I need to get a better angle where I can use my force fields more, but he was clearly very confident. That was a cool game. I haven't seen, you know, a lot of games, I'm sure you guys haven't either, because I probably end up seeing more StarCraft than you guys, that, you know, seen somebody do a cannon rush like that, and then, you know, the follow-up is actually to stay on 3 bases. I thought maybe he would actually even wait for Zerg to take a possible 4th base, but he didn't. He just looked at the situation, did the math perfectly, and he knew what he had to do. Well, it's not done yet. There's still a chance Ragnarok could come back. We're going to go to a short break, and when we return, we're going to finish up our final best of 5 here in today's GSL Code S.